You've probably heard your whole life that little dried mud tube stuck to your wall is a sign of a pest infestation. That it's something dirty, something dangerous, something you're supposed to smash with a broom and forget about immediately. Maybe you've already done exactly that. Maybe you've scraped it off, crushed it, thrown it away without giving it a second thought. But what you're about to find out is going to change the way you look at that muddy little smear the next time you walk past it, because inside that tiny tube is one of the most brutal, most useful stories nature has hidden literally inside your own house. And if you've already destroyed one of these without knowing what you were doing, you may have unknowingly wiped out the only natural enemy of a much bigger threat hiding in the corners of your yard. Because that mud tunnel wasn't built by a pest. It was constructed, layer by layer of mud, by a solitary architect, the mud dauber wasp. And here's your first reality check. She isn't there to attack you. In fact, the mud dauber almost never stings humans, even when directly disturbed. Her stinger is weak, her temperament is peaceful, and she avoids any kind of confrontation with you entirely. The real reason she's on your wall is far darker and far more fascinating than any sting could ever be. Because this wasp is a hunter, and her favorite prey is one of the creatures that terrifies people the most inside their own homes. The spider, that's right. The mud tunnel you associate with danger is actually a burial chamber, built specifically to store captured spiders, including species that could be far more dangerous to you than the wasp herself ever would be. The myth you were taught is completely backwards. The insect you fear is the natural predator of the insect you should actually be afraid of. To understand the scale of this twist, you need to understand how this hunt actually happens, and that's where this story turns into a full-blown miniature epic. The female mud dauber works entirely alone, no queen, no colony, no army. She is simultaneously the architect, the warrior, and the single mother running the entire operation. First, she flies to a mud puddle or a patch of damp soil and gathers small balls of mud with her mandibles, one at a time. Then she flies to a sheltered spot, usually a wall, an eave, or a wooden beam, and starts shaping those mud balls into layers, like a bricklayer building a miniature wall. She repeats this process dozens of times until she's formed a hollow tube, perfectly sealed, weatherproof against sun and rain. But the tube is only the hiding place. Her real mission starts after that. She flies off to hunt spiders, and this is where the scene turns almost cinematic. She doesn't randomly attack small, defenseless spiders. Many species of mud dauber specifically target spiders larger than themselves, including, depending on the region, some seriously venomous species like certain widow spiders. She locates the spider hiding in its web or tucked into a crack and strikes with a precision no human could replicate without training. She uses her stinger not to kill, but to inject an extremely specific neurotoxic venom that paralyzes the spider without killing it. The spider stays alive but completely immobile, trapped inside its own body. Then the wasp does something that looks straight out of a biological horror film. She carries the paralyzed spider, often heavier than her own body, flying with an absurd amount of effort back to the mud tunnel. There she deposits the still-living, paralyzed spider inside and lays a single egg directly on its body. Then she seals that chamber with another layer of mud and repeats the whole process, capturing more spiders, stacking prey after prey inside the same tunnel, each one preserved alive to serve as fresh food. When the egg hatches, the larva doesn't need to hunt for anything. It's born literally inside a sealed pantry, packed with food that's still alive and preserved, functioning almost exactly like a natural refrigeration system that evolution perfected long before humans ever invented one. The mud dauber isn't a pest. She's an invisible bodyguard, a cleanup crew patrolling the dark corners of your house, capturing one by one the spiders you never even knew were there. And that's exactly why destroying that tunnel without thinking twice can be a bigger mistake than it seems. When you remove the mud tunnels from an area, you're not just getting rid of the wasp. you're eliminating the natural population control that keeps spiders in check in that environment. Biological control research shows that mud daubers can significantly reduce the presence of venomous spiders in areas where they're active, acting as a quiet, natural filter with an efficiency no household bug spray could ever match. Without them, those spiders are free to multiply, no longer facing the predator specifically evolved to hunt them. You end up trading a peaceful insect that almost never stings for a growing population of the exact creature that makes you scream when you find it inside a shoe or behind a cabinet. There's one more detail almost nobody knows. Mud tunnels abandoned after the larvae have already emerged don't just disappear for no reason. Other insects, including solitary bees that are important pollinators, often reuse these ready-made mud structures to build their own nests. In other words, that tunnel on your wall can eventually become recycled housing for another beneficial species, creating a small chain of reuse that supports even more life around your home. And here's reason number 7, the most unsettling one of all. If you scrape off a mud tunnel without knowing what's inside, you could be breaking open a sealed chamber containing a spider that's still alive, only paralyzed, not dead. In theory, depending on the exact stage of the larva and how much time has passed since capture, it's possible that spider, even while immobilized, could still be biologically active enough to react when suddenly exposed. It's a rare detail, but it's exactly this kind of biological unpredictability that turns a simple mud tunnel into a tiny box of mysteries that most people destroy without ever imagining what was actually inside. So let's recap the truth behind the myth. What you learn to fear as a sign of infestation is actually the work of a solitary architect who builds mud burial chambers to store captured spiders alive, including dangerous species, ensuring her next generation is born fed and protected. She's not attacking you. She's not invading your food. She's quietly hunting the enemy you fear most, and doing it with a precision science is still working to fully understand. Next time you spot a mud tunnel on your wall, pause for a second before destroying it. Think about everything it represents. Solitary engineering, an epic hunt, and a natural protection system working for free without you ever knowing. Nature didn't hide this secret in some distant forest. It hid it right there on the wall of your own home. If this story just changed the way you'll look at the next mud tunnel you come across, hit that like button so more people can see this truth before destroying one without knowing. And subscribe to the channel, because the next biological mystery hiding in your backyard might be even more surprising than this one.